she acted this way, right? I got this result. Then I was abused. Right now, when I see someone who mimics the same character, even if it's not the same character, I access my secondary emotional knowledge. That's the emotional language and not the primary emotional language. Because if I see them and I don't have that perception, that's the Hannah, I don't see them that way, then what will I create? Nothing. I have no experience because I don't perceive the world on that lens. I am in it. The only feeling that I will experience is the tension of the muscle, the excitement, the sweat of my body, the physical sensations. That is the primary emotional language that the body will feel. But if I screen Hannah on a specific lens, then I choose the character, the behavior, the response on a lens I see as harmful, and instead of understanding that the primary reaction is a communication to my body to pay attention to the something that needs to be paid attention to. That is frightening, right? And in that process, we tend to create conflict within ourselves on an emotional language or on a psychological trap. Either we want answers consistently, nothing makes sense, or we perceive the world on an emotional language and we are never free. We trap ourselves in that. Like one of you gentlemen asked, do you believe in God? Why does it matter? So to answer your question, let's inquire together. Does God exist? And do I believe in God? I am not denying God. We are inquiring God together. If you say God created us, then we are part of His image, right? Because that is, we are omniscient, generous, loving. Are we? No, are we? So if God created you, He must be an extraordinary entity, because He wants you to live a terrible life. So either you have created God, or God has created you. Again, either you have created God, or God has created you. If you examine very closely, you have created God. See the irony of it. Thought has created God, and thought worships the image which thought has created. Thought has created God, and thought worships the image that thought has created, which is to worship oneself. Right? Call it God. If you love, not God, because that is very easy to love, because it's an abstraction and has no much meaning. But if you loved, that very love is God. That very love is sacred. You won't go out to look for God because it's secret, right? You won't go out looking for God. We create God. We come up with God because the thought comes up with God. And then the thought worships the image that it came up with. That is the worship of oneself. That is an extraordinary entity, right? We are inquiring together. So the question that one of you asked, do I believe in God? No, I don't believe in God. Because God is not something created by a man. Belief has no place where truth is concerned. It has no place. There it is. You got it, right? So let's roll back. Let me hope I answered your question. Let me hope you love and you don't create God to love God. So we go back and say, if you strip yourself from the conscious and the unconscious, that is the past experiences, what do you get? Emptiness. And in that emptiness, there is frightening. When there is frightening, there is sensations, there is sometimes nothing, empty. Are we frightened by our own emptiness, or are we frightened by our perceptions of the emptiness? Again, are we frightened by the emptiness, or are we frightened by the perception of the emptiness? Because when we perceive empty, there will be no empty, there will be knowledge. They will be trying to understand. They will be trying to study the past. I am feeling this way because of the past. And if I say I am feeling this way because of the past, now I tend to linger to the emotional language that on science, it has a consistent pattern that creates conflict emotionally. So we tend to be on an emotional language consistently, and then arouse a pattern in us consistently, because that is the pattern, the territory that our body can know and is aware of. Until we understand something, until we question, until we learn something, until we blame something on someone, until we say it's because of Hannah, until we say she rejected me, she walked away, that is why I feel this way, then we create conflict on that perception, and in that we become slaves to words. And the words are the only emotional language to our past experience, because our past experience is what defines our present and modifies it to the future. When we all know there is no future, there is only the present. But we use our past experience through an emotional language that is the secondary emotional language because of how we served it to the present. And now you say, oh, because of my ex, that is why I feel this way. No, Isaac, the perception of it makes you feel safe, and that perception of it creates conflict on an emotional language, and it creates a trap on a psychological language. Are we ever free from our mind and the perception of the words and free from the words, or are we creating conflict through it?